Standard 8H5B tells us that you need to be able to evaluate the impact of land policies pursued by Georgia, and you need to be able to include the headright system, the land lotteries, and the Yazoo land fraud. Okay, let's get started. So the headright system. The headright system actually goes back to the beginning of the colonies. Georgia was not the only place that used the headright system. The headright system started in Virginia, and it was used throughout the 13 colonies. It was the first method, though, that Georgia used to distribute land. And essentially it said that, if you are willing to come to the colonies, then, and bring your family, England was trying to establish the colonies, and they wanted the colonies to be settled, and they needed people to come over and settle the colonies. So in trying to get people to come over, they said, if you will come over, bring your family, then every head of the family will receive 100 acres. And if you have additional family members who are coming with you, you'll get 50 acres for each additional member. So I want you to consider what that meant for people in England, that if they could afford to come over, they would be given this land. And they were coming from a country where the land was all owned by nobility. There was no way they were going to be able to own land in England. At this point, you have to understand that the cotton gin had been invented, and there was a worldwide explosion in the demand for cotton. And people are living on the coast of Georgia, and they're looking at all of this Indian land out to the west and up to the north, and they're thinking, why can't we have that land? Why can't we go and plant this land? And, Georgia's been giving land away. Why can't they give that land to us? Georgia, of course, has no interest in keeping the Indians on that land, and they want to continue to make money from the sale of cotton and other goods. So, of course, they go ahead and begin to move west. They realize that this headright system is not the best manner to distribute land. It is not fast, it is not efficient, and it does not distribute land quickly enough. So they moved then to what's called the land lotteries. In this case, land is divided up, kind of thrown into a pot, and you buy chances to win a parcel of land. And if your name is drawn and you win that parcel, then that's yours. And in some cases, the land was good. In some cases, it wasn't so good. Let's go to another 8th grade teacher, and she's going to give you an actual demonstration of how that land lottery worked.
The government was giving away Indians' land. They used a system known as the land lottery. How the land lottery worked was you would get a ticket, and that ticket would show where you would draw a ticket, and that ticket would show where in Georgia your land would be located. Here's an example of what a land lottery would have been like. Once it stopped, I would draw a ticket. I got ticket 3. So I would come over here. I could locate my land. Yes. 3. I'm going to be in Cass County. So I could also come over here, and it's going to tell me about the land that I have. The land that I've drawn, this land is rocky, and the soil is unsuited for farming. You cannot pay the taxes due. Deed it back to the squirrels and abandon the land. Eventually, the land becomes part of the Chattahoochee National Forest. So I didn't really get a great deal on my land lottery. This land is not going to be good for my family because I can't farm on it, so I'm not going to be able to make a living. If I'm a widow, though, maybe I'll be able to draw one more time. Better luck next time.
So to recap, the headright system was used from 1733 to 1804, and that covered the land distribution from the coastal areas all the way up into North Georgia, running along the Savannah River, not too far inland though. Okay. Then from 1805 to 1833, the rest of the state was distributed, running all the way over to the state border and up north towards Tennessee. But what about the land stretching out to the Mississippi River? Georgia used to stretch all the way out there, encompassing the states of Alabama and Mississippi. What happened to that? Well, that disappears in something called the Yazoo land fraud. In 1795, 4 private land companies bribed members of the General Assembly to pass a law. This law, called the Yazoo Act, which was named after a river in the present state of Mississippi, dictated that the 4 land companies would be able to buy much of the land which encompassed what is presently known as Alabama and Mississippi for $500,000. Now, keep in mind, that's $500,000 in 18th century dollars. Soon after Georgia Governor George Matthews signed the Yazoo Act into law, it was discovered that the land companies had bribed the members of the Georgia General Assembly, and of course, almost immediately, Georgians protested the sale. Nevertheless, the legislators chose to continue with the arrangement. And so upon hearing about this, one of Georgia's U.S. senators, James Jackson, was so outraged that he resigned from his seat and went back home. Once back, he and his political allies took control of the Georgia General Assembly and nullified the Yazoo Act. In 1802, Georgia ceded the land to the U.S. government for $1.25 million and the promise that the United States would relinquish Indian land claims in the state and remove the Creek Indians from Georgia. Now, all of this controversy surrounding the Yazoo Act is known as the Yazoo land fraud. One of the most famous images in Georgia's history is the painting or the illustration known as the burning of the Yazoo Act, which shows James Jackson, that U.S. senator who resigned his seat in Washington to come back home, and others standing around the Yazoo document that was being set ablaze. Now, legend has it that they used a magnifying glass to bring fire from heaven to destroy the act. So the land that used to be Georgia, which stretched to the Mississippi, was given back to the federal government, which then created the states of Alabama and Mississippi.